What is up, guys? Kevin from the KO Sports Corner. Today we have a very special guest, Richard Bleier, pitcher for the Miami Marlins. Hey, Richard, how has the offseason been treating you?
Hey, Kevin, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so today we're just pretty much going to we're going to go back to the 2020 season a little bit. I know it wasn't the most memorable season because of COVID, but the Marlins did make the playoffs. And, being around that team, what was it like, especially entering midway through the season? For the ones that don't know, Richard got traded from the Baltimore Orioles to the Miami Marlins pretty much midway through the season after the pandemic broke for the Miami Marlins. The outbreak happened. So, how was that experience? Joining this team, pretty much fighting for a playoff spot and ended making it and beating the Chicago Cubs in that first round.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Starting the season in Baltimore with all the COVID stuff, and then kind of knowing what happened with the Marlins and with all the positive tests they had, and then getting traded over right in the middle of it. And it ended up being a great situation. Though it was a great team. I think the COVID stuff really brought the team together more so than a lot of other things could have. Yeah, and then with that 60 game season, we finished. We played really well as soon as I got there, and right out of the downtime or the delay or whatever, with the COVID stuff.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, the playoffs was cool. I feel like, with no fans in the stands, it kind of wasn't the full effect. But yeah, going in there and going to Wrigley Field and playing the Cubs and being able to play against the Braves was a really cool experience in my career. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and that was the first time, the Marlins had made the playoffs since 2003.
Yeah.
That last time they had made the World Series, you guys came back and it was just a step for the future. And speaking of that, the 2021 season, not the season we were all expecting in terms of wins and losses, but, in your opinion, what were the ups and the downs of that season? Because for you did have a pretty good season. I mean, you had a 3-2 record, 2.95 ERA, 68 games, 58 innings pitched, 44 strikeouts, .98 whips. So, I mean, what were your positives and negatives of that season?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I was there were a lot of things I was happy with my season.
Hmm.
As far as the team goes, though, it was overall a very disappointing season. We had high expectations going into spring training, following up last year's playoff experience, and I think we knew around 500 would have been good enough to be contenders in the division. And it turned out that it was right, or yeah, we would have been pretty close at 500. Um, and I think we true, at least I truly thought we were a better team than a 500 team. And I think just injuries and just things just didn't kind of work out. I remember we were one game under 500 or so, and we went on a road trip to like Pittsburgh, and we did really bad. And then from there on, it kind of like we had some injuries and just lack of performance, and it just kind of never really got back on track after that time. I think, but I think there are a lot of positives after the season. Like, we have incredible starting pitching, and it's
Yeah.
really it's a rarity in today's game to have this kind of starting pitching and for this long, like team control wise. And it's like that's a really attractive thing for the Marlins to kind of like build around, in my opinion. And I think we had a really good bullpen, and guys did their jobs as they needed to fill in for hurt players, people who came up and down. But overall, losing guys, main guys in our lineup really really hurt.
Yeah, right from this season, the series really hurt. I mean, you guys lost Eliezer right at the beginning in that Tampa series, in that opening day series. You guys also lost Starlin Marte, who eventually did get traded in that
Right.
deadline. And that starting pitching, which you talked about, is very good. You guys have Sandy, who surpassed the 200 innings this season. I think he also surpassed 200 strikeouts. I think he had 201, if I'm correct. So, I mean, working with those guys, it must be, really good for you, at least learning from a guy like Sandy, maybe even in that bullpen. And it must be a great experience for you, at least.
I think that um, running those guys out there, Trevor, Sandy,
Yeah.
Eliezer, Pablo, like, and then Cabrera. We know, no, we're good. So, kind of we have a chance to win every single game. You know, those guys. There's no question marks, which is it's a really cool feeling being in the bullpen, knowing like, hey, you know, this isn't. And then we have like Luzardo, who finished really strong and looked really good. You know, so there's a lot of depth after those you know, the guys that we ran out there consistently this year, and I think that you know, it's really fun to watch from the bullpen point of view, knowing like, you know, there were times when I was in Baltimore where it was okay, like, how are we going to get through this game? You know, we don't know what we're going to get out of the starter, and we're just trying to like cover 8 or 9 innings depending on if we're home on the road. Yeah. And that's not really the case here in Miami. It's like, all right, let's, you know, we're going to try to win this game.
Yeah, and you talk about, you know, the guys in this bullpen. I wanted to ask you about Anthony Bender, who was one of the young guys on this team. I mean, what did you like about his season? Because he really didn't start with the team. He was on the taxi squad or pretty much in AAA, and eventually he got called up and added to the 40-man roster. I mean, what were your thoughts on his season, and what were some of the things you liked that he did at this, you know, pitching?
Yeah, I think he did a great job. Obviously, he had a great season overall. He started out with, you know, whatever, really well, you know, kind of, wow, the big leagues is easy, you know, type, not that attitude, but that's just like what it looked like. It's like this guy's making it look really easy. Yeah. And then kind of hit a little, like came back to reality a little bit, and then kind of got back to it and really finished strong. So I think he learned a lot this year. And I think next year he's going to be even better. Really, I do. The stuff is just elite stuff. The fastball slider combo really plays to lefties and righties, and I think it's going to be exciting to watch him get another year under his belt.
Yeah, you know, watching this guy from the outside, it was crazy. This guy just started off immediately. I think his ERA was 0 for a long time until, you know, then eventually he started getting hit. He eventually got put in that closer role, which he started doing pretty well after Yemi got traded. And then Flora, they were putting him in the 8th. They were pretty much swapping him and Flora at some point. So it was really cool to see Bender, and now hopefully we could see him grow from that next season. And, you know, coming back to your season, you it seemed more like you got a lot of strikeouts, but it was more of the ground balls for you that really helped you work through the innings. Your ground ball percentage was over 65, which was the 5th best in the league. I mean, do you consider yourself more of a ground ball type of pitcher, or you get the more of a strikeout type of pitcher when it comes to that sense?
So for me, I just you know, I've always, since college, I've tried to pitch to contact. I think that when I got to the big leagues, I realized that the quicker you could get somebody out, I think the less chance you have of giving up a hit, in my opinion. I'm a big believer in the fewer times they see your best pitch, the more chances you have to get them out. You know, where if I throw one sinker, maybe they'll swing and miss, and I throw another one, they'll foul it off, and then like the third one, they're kind of on it, and so I don't want to waste. I don't want to give them free looks by expanding the zone. And if I get a strikeout, I get a strikeout. If there's a situation where I need one, I'll go for it. But I very rarely actually go for strikeouts, and I very rarely try to throw balls in the dirt or out of the zone. I just like to stay in the zone, and I know my pitches, and I know their best locations, and I know how to use what I have as good as possible, and I stick with that plan, and I think it's worked out well for me.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it this season. You only had 44 strikeouts, which is still a lot, but I would say the most memorable moment when it comes to you was, you know, Anthony Bass left the bases loaded, and it came down to you. You came in and you struck out the side. I mean, what were you thinking throughout that moment? It was in the Mets series, so I do want to ask you what your mentality was throughout that time.
You know, I think my mentality is the same for every time I pitch. It's attack the zone, and in that situation, I think you asked the bases loaded, no outs was. It's almost like there's no pressure. It's like, what do you have to lose? Nobody expects you to do anything in terms of, like, you know, it's just one of those impossible situations to pitch out of. So I think I just went in there and, all right, you know, I'm just going to take it one pitch at a time and see what happens. And it was just, I just executed pitches and got good results, but not clearly. I'm not, you know, yeah, I'd love to go strike out the side every time, but that's not what I was going for at all by any means. And if you look at a lot of those pitches, you know, all of them were in the zones, you know, so they were swing and miss in the zone I'm pretty sure maybe the cutter for the righty was a strike to ball, but so it's the same mentality of just I'm going to get outs in the strike zone, and if they want to swing and miss, they by all means they can, and if not, they can put a ball in play and hopefully hit it to somebody.
Yeah, that to me was maybe the most memorable moment of that game. That was a very high leverage situation. It was a clutch moment in that game, which I think eventually you guys did win that game. So it's great to see that you were a huge part of that moment. And I do want to ask you about another young guy in that bullpen, which was Zach Pop. He comes into this season. What were your thoughts on him? What did you like from him throughout that whole year?
Yeah, so actually I knew Pop from Baltimore,
Oh,
rehab assignment in Double A when he was pitching in Double A, and kind of a funky arm slot, power sink with a really good slider. And I wondered why he wasn't in the big leagues when I knew some of the other guys that were in the big leagues, and he was way better than them. And then when the Marlins got him on the Rule 5 draft, it was, he hadn't pitched in a couple years with the arm injury, and I knew he kind of had his work cut out for him. Where going from Double A and then not pitching for a year, almost 2 years, and then going to the big leagues, so that was a huge challenge within itself, and I thought he handled that really well, and I think he did great. I mean he worked really hard and tried to learn on the fly and kind of relearn how to pitch altogether. Like I said, post injury, people just don't come back immediately and get back to their regular self. It takes some time, and so to do that in the big leagues as your first time in the big leagues is a real challenge. And it was cool to see him kind of figure it out as the season went along and gain confidence from that and realize that he can pitch at this level and and get it done. And then I think Donnie started really trusting him in better situations, bringing him in and late and close, and I think that went a long way for him too, seeing that the confidence that they had in him. And yeah, it was great to see. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does this off season, and he kind of he knows the things that he does well and the things he needs to improve on, and I'm curious to see how that translates for him next year.
yeah, when you looked at Pop, especially in the ending months of the season, he truly was being used a lot more but Donnie was using him a lot more in closing roles, maybe even in eighth, seventh inning moments with how they wanted to use these young guys, because we knew Lewin came up, a lot of these young guys came up, and he was one of them who was being used a lot more. Um, I want to get into 2022. I mean, what are your expectations for yourself and for the team entering that season? Because it seems like this could be a big season for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to next year already. Like I said, we came up short this past season, and I think we all know that. And and I think our goal is always to win. Is to we You just don't want to get to the playoffs and then kind of drop back down to losing games like that. So it's just an overall disappointment, and I think that like I said, I think we have good pieces in place that can really put together a winning team, and I think that everybody's on board with that mentality of we're going to get after it, and we're gonna really go, and we see the division, the NL East is kind of up for grabs in my opinion.
Yeah.
There's no one soup, nobody blew out the division and just dominated the league for the whole year. It was
Yeah.
kind of back and forth between a few teams, and we know we can play with all the teams up, the Braves and the Mets and the Phillies, and we know we could, and the Nationals, we could play with all those teams. And it just seemed like, we lost a lot of one-run games, and just kind of like just coming up short. And so hopefully we can take that next step next year and turn those games into wins and kind of, move forward. And, just watching the playoffs, we were wishing we were there.
Oh, that 2022, it looks like it holds pretty high expectations from, looking from the outside, seeing this team. Jazz really emerged last season. Miggy
Yeah.
played one hell of a season. I mean, Jesus Sanchez came in, got COVID, and then eventually came back, and he looked better than ever. And Brian De La Cruz, one of the guys you acquired in the trade deadline, really, really came as a surprise to many, at least from looking at that outside fan perspective, media perspective. This is really a good team that Miami's building right now. And free agency. Hopefully, it's looking bright for this team. And I did want to ask you about Miggy. He announced on the Chris Rose podcast that he is nearing an extension. What are your thoughts on Miggy? I guess, it's been called the unofficial captain, but what are your thoughts on him coming back?
Miggy is great. He's probably the best. He is the best person I've ever played with, the best teammate I've ever had. The guy is an incredible leader in the clubhouse and on the field. And it's just, you cannot put a value on the things he does for this team. I don't know what else to say other than when I first on the team, and just when he came back from COVID and just seeing like, wow, this is incredible. The way he just, and everybody respects him, and it keeps the clubhouse together. It really is impressive. It's been a real treat playing with him. And I know he takes pride in not only his performance on the field, but his leadership in the clubhouse. And it goes a long way for this team for sure. And I would love to not only play with him with the Marlins, but I would love to play with him anywhere. Really, that guy, it's great, and he's great on the field. There's no doubt about that. The guy's an incredible shortstop, and he's a great hitter too.
Yeah, and the last question here to wrap it up is Jazz Chisholm. There was a TikTok, and I was rating players' Euro steps, and you're one of them. I mean, it was a pretty funny moment. What were your thoughts on that video? How it came out?
Yeah, so I don't, I'm too old for that. I don't know what any of that stuff is.
Yeah.
And I see Jazz doing it when he hits all his homers or whatever. And Josh Rogers, I played with in Baltimore, so I knew, and I talked to him, and after the game, and was joking with him about it. And then in Tampa, we went to Tampa or whatever, and I guess Jazz was rating everybody's Euro step or whatever, and he kind of showed me how to do it first. And I'm a left-handed pitcher. I'm the first to admit I'm uncoordinated and not graceful at all. So, I don't do that. I don't play basketball. I don't do anything that's off the dirt of the mound, really. I'm unathletic in pretty much every other aspect of life other than throwing a baseball. But that was a good time. Jazz is great. Jazz brings such a unique flair to the game, and I think that it was a lot of fun playing with him this year. He does his thing, but is still respectful of his teammates and the game, which I think is important because he still, the game's been around a lot longer than he has, and there's things that happen and don't happen for people in his situation, and I think he understands that, but still likes to have fun. And I think that it's great. It's been fun to watch. He had a great season, and I think he's another one you could put in the category of I can't wait to see what he does with a full off season after being in the big leagues, and kind of follows up this past season with next year. I know he's got huge goals, and I know that he'll reach those goals because he's got the work ethic and he's got the drive to do it.
Yeah, man. Jazz is just gonna get better from here. Richard, thank you so much for coming on. If you want to tell everyone where they could follow you on Instagram, Twitter, whatever social medias you're using.
I got Instagram. I think it's just my name. I don't know how to use that stuff though. But yeah, hey, Kevin, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man. Remember, guys, to subscribe to the channel. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, where you could as well listen to this. There'll probably be some kind of clip on Instagram and Twitter, so you guys could also find it here. Make sure to follow Richard on all his social medias, and make sure to tune into his season coming up in 2022. Richard, once again, thank you for coming. We'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out.